Hey, Jackie, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you, Lydia?
Good.
Thanks for
It's an inside joke. You had to
yeah.
be there.
Look, I didn't dead name myself today, which is a good thing. My name is
I've been
Jackie.
trying to tell you to stop dead naming my friend Jackie.
I
God.
know.
Well, it's been a bit.
It has been a bit, a
Yeah,
lot.
nothing bad's happened.
Nothing, nothing at all. Nothing this week in particular either. Like,
Okay, so did I tell you I'm writing a book?
yeah, you did tell me. You
Have I shared you
actually,
that? Have I given you that book?
you gave me like the first couple chapters. Yeah.
Okay. So the book is essentially me trying to explain conservatism.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's not even that. It's just really getting down to human nature in its most elemental form. And I'm trying to follow the example of Euclid, who got geometry down to 5 elements, right? And I started to, because here's what happened. Marks kept coming up in things I was saying, some of the art discussions, and like it's coming up in my teaching, like in my job. I kept hearing, like, in my job, I was using words like, it was kind of dialectics. So a lot of the ACT and the SAT can be understood through dialectics.
Yeah.
Um, let's see, praxis. I call my certain teaching method praxis, and Marx talked about praxis and dialectics
Yeah.
and all this other stuff. And so I was getting frustrated, and I shared some of these frustrations with you. It was like almost every time I try to talk about a new idea that I'm experiencing in my own world, I run up against Marx. Do you
Hmm.
remember this?
Yes.
Okay, so I was frustrated, like, why? Why Marx? Because I looked into it more, and dialectics is not, he didn't come up with that.
No.
It predates him, and it's very similar to Socratic method, you know. So, if you read and you start reading, I've done a lot of philosophy. Remember when I first did this podcast? I was just like, I don't want to listen to philosophers. I want my own ideas.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Tyranny of the
I have
brain,
actually
right?
read a lot since then. Um, and there are a lot of the same ideas. So I'm just like, can we distill this down to some sort of element? And so what I've come up with so far is one, hegemony. And I don't necessarily, and I didn't really want to make a book of why Gramsci, I don't know who knows how to say his name, was
Gramsci.
wrong, or why Marx is wrong. I just kind of want to talk about it like on its own virtue. And so I perhaps maybe have redefined hegemony just to be the dominant power in any given situation. But like for instance, one of the ways to think about, like, well, what is hegemony? Like, why do you put a Christmas tree up? Like, that's a question someone might ask. It's a philosophy teacher talking about hegemony. And
Yeah,
like, no one alive has decided you should do that. Okay.
right.
And so but then if you go into TikTok, so I really want to make this very modern. Okay. If you go into TikTok, you'll see TikToks about people like, oh, Jesus stole the Christmas tree from the pagans. And that's kind of like a trope, a very modern trope, but just like, but hold on, what if that's not the case? What if the Christmas tree wasn't like taken from the pagans by the evangelical missionaries? Doesn't it also make sense that it could have just been converted pagans trying to connect to their ancestors? They
Yeah,
liked the tradition and they adopted it.
yeah, of course.
Doesn't that so it's very easy to ascribe like so Ramsey said it was like a trick. It's always the hegemony tries to act like it's normal, right? Well, what if that just happened? What if the Christmas tree was just adopted because it was a sacred tradition, and it's not necessarily has anything to do with Christianity? And it was funny because I actually know this guy who like rails against the Christmas tree. This isn't real Christian tradition. It's pagan. Blah blah blah. We should reject it. I'm just like, why? Why
Yeah.
should you reject it? Why can't you adopt? Why can't things adapt? So, and then in the book I talk about how Regina George. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Of course.
Okay, so Regina George is the hegemon, right? And she does trick. She's just like, Regina George is a fugly, skanky bitch, right? She pretends she's persecuted. That's exactly how it works, right? To gain sympathy, to act because power doesn't ever win democratically. It has to win in some other way. Therefore, it must therefore trick everyone in having sympathy for it, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so but at the very end, Katie Heron looks at the new baby plastics and says, um, if if anyone disrupts our new piece, we know exactly what to do then. Then she fantasies about the baby plastics being hit by a bus. Because she's the new hegemony. She's enforcing the hegemony through violence.
Yeah.
So, but she wasn't, she wasn't Regina George. She wanted, peace and tranquility. But even peace and tranquility must be protected through violence.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's just like, maybe it's just all the way, maybe you can never dismantle hegemony. It just exists. And it's important that we recognize it and stop pretending it doesn't exist. So there's one. So it's a little bit reframing of hegemony. And so then I started talking about some other things, what a liberal is. I don't really care about what a liberal is, but what a radical is. Did I tell you what a radical is? Did I tell you about this?
I think I know what a radical is about,
Okay,
but
so
I want to
go
hear what
ahead.
you
What do you
say.
think radical
Well,
is?
yeah, because I think of a radical as like getting to the root. Because in math,
Yes,
same idea. So radical is someone that gets to the root of the problem, and that's it.
but people think it's someone who is so against establishment, they want change for the sake of change, that they're ready to break rules to meet their ends, right?
Right.
Just that, and that happens because if you are not the power position, just like, the R word, for example, used to not be a pejorative, right? But over time, it can become a pejorative, because it there's a linguistic phenomenon where this happens, where something that is a marginalized thing, the correct word for marginalized things will then turn into a pejorative. It
Hmm.
doesn't happen with words that describe hegemony. So
Oh,
anyway,
interesting.
radical has been turned into a pejorative to mean, an anarchist, essentially,
Yeah.
right?
Somebody
Um,
extreme. Yeah.
what?
It's like used like the connotation of it is someone that's on the extreme view.
Yeah, instead of the root view. It's actually not at all extreme to be around. So I make the point that hegemony just is. It's not bad, it's not good, it just is. It's a framework to understand power. And power, there there will always be power, whether it's Katie Heron trying to protect the peace or it's Regina George trying to have one over on everyone else. Okay. There's always going to be power. And I think this is a mistake that a lot of conservative, no, liberals make, is we think that we can fight hegemony. But no, you just want to change the hegemony into something more equitable. Um, So anyway, that's a point I'm going to make. I'm going to talk about radical, and a lot of people think radical is kind of like extreme anarchist, like you don't ascribe to the norms of society, but it actually just means you get to the root of something. Like
Yeah.
in math, the radical is the square root or the cube root of something, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Um, so and I don't talk about liberal because I find that liberal, I thought I was a liberal, but when I looked at the definition of liberal and what people think it is, not only like the classical definition of liberal, but also the pejorative version of liberal, I didn't really find a lot to ascribe with that. I mean, I guess I am a liberal. It means basically it means you believe in democracy and you believe in being open-minded, essentially.
Sure, but like in internet speak, like I don't know if you ever watch Hassan Piker. He always is railing against liberals, which he equates with like the cocktail Democrats or like the centrist Democrats, whereas a progressive is different from a liberal. Now,
Yeah, I
whether
don't
Hassan is
that
right or
that it
not,
all seems useless to me.
that's true. I'm
Yeah,
just
it's
putting it
like,
in the internet jargon.
are
What?
you trying to fight for more equality or not? That's
Yeah.
kind of how I see you.
No,
So,
no, no.
and I don't like it when people on the left tend to bicker with each other about this stuff because I'm just like, I mean, you can call it hypocrisy. I think that's important to do, you know, but your genuineness, if you can still get the job done, I don't find that to be a particularly useful discussion. I do listen to him sometimes, but I really don't like leftists who rail against liberals. It really bothers me. And
Yeah.
that's usually a way, if you are going to complain more about liberals than conservatives, then what are you even doing? Do we need to be perfect? Did we need to be perfect
Yeah.
first? I don't buy that.
I
So
mean, listen, Lydia, you're actually hitting on, and I don't want to derail you too much, but I do want to just make the comment, at least in passing, that you are talking about a central view of the election where some people blame people blaming liberals for the loss of Kamala Harris.
I don't do that. I'm not gonna do that.
No, and I don't think it's particularly
No, so that that
fruitful
that's
with a few exceptions, but we can get to that later.
well, no. Did you need us to be perfect?
No.
I mean, we can always learn from our lessons, but no, I think there's two, and I'll get there. I think there's two reasons why she lost, and neither of them are her fault. There
Okay.
are a lot of things I will criticize Kamala Harris all day long, but that's not why she lost the election. The things I will criticize for her on her are things that probably helped her. So,
Oh, okay.
like the fact that she's a cop, stuff like
Yeah.
that. You
And
know,
the
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 fact that she like rose to her job, go get it, girl. I'm all for that. I am not at all. I can fuck everyone she wants. I don't give a fuck.
yeah, yeah,
Like I don't care about that shit. So, she's a DEI hire, great. Should have been sooner. Why aren't there more women? Why aren't there more black women in power? This is ridiculous.
yeah,
Okay, like I
definitely.
don't care. Like everything they criticize about her, I'm just like, go for it. So
Yeah.
things that are her benefit that they didn't criticize her are the things I would criticize about her. So that's not I don't agree that's why she lost the election. I think she lost the election for two reasons. One, voter suppression, and two, because she was a black woman.
Yeah. No, I very much believe that voter suppression and maybe even intimidation
Absolutely.
is what caused,
Yeah.
because if you look at the fact Donald Trump received less votes this election than he did in 2020 when he lost to Joe Biden.
Yeah,
But
and
there were like
I
15 to
it could
20
be
million
Democrats
less
are racist
voters.
too. It really could be.
Say what?
It could be the Democrats are racist too.
Oh, 100%. Well, and the Democrats' view of Israel and Gaza was incredibly problematic. And
Oh,
that's my
I
biggest
that's a whole other thing.
Oh, for sure. But
Yeah.
that's the thing
But
I criticize most about Harris, which I don't think necessarily hurt her with some of the
there's
like,
no
I don't know.
daylight. I mean, the things you want to say to criticize her, Trump was not better.
No, Trump is not
So
better.
that's not I'm not buying that. So
But
I
I
don't have time for that.
the reason I bring it up is I think people bought that Trump was better on that, bought the idea because he said
Do
he
you
was
know
gonna.
somebody who bought that idea? Do you actually know
No,
someone who would have voted
personally,
for Kamala Harris except for that issue?
personally, no. I just heard
Okay, so if
anecdotes.
someone says that, I bet you anything, if you scratch the surface, you got a time machine and you go back in time and run the scenario A/B test the fuck out of it, they would have
Not
found some other reason. They're sublimating a reason to not vote for her. The reason is never the issue.
yeah,
Okay. So I'm writing this book. I'm putting this all together. I've tried to define what a conservative. I'm really just really breaking this all down to its radical form.
I
So
love that.
um
What a radical.
and I've come to this. Okay. Conservatives have integrity. They do. And their hypocrisy is part of it. Their core value is society should be organized around existing power, and it is disruptive and deviant to challenge that.
Yeah.
That's it. It's status all the way down. Okay? A conservative fundamentally does not believe in equality and democracy. They just don't. Okay? So, whatever their issue is, it doesn't matter. Oh, we don't like a strong federal government. They're fine with a strong federal government when Trump's in power.
Yeah.
Oh, we don't like this. We don't like rape. No, they're fine with rape. Trump is a rapist. And Trump even went Like he even wrote an article about how it was okay for Mike Tyson to not serve jail time because he had to be in a fight, and couldn't he just pay a fine for that raping he was doing? You can literally find this.
Mm.
Okay. So it's all depends on the situation, because it doesn't matter. So just watch a conservative. They pause, they check the power dynamics, find the power, and then argue on behalf of the power. Every situation they'll ever do, try to find a time I'm wrong. Try to find a time where they've sided with the power, the side that they can even be right. They're not always wrong. Sometimes power is correct, but then they will be correct. But they always like to keep things the status quo. You
Yeah.
try to find an exception. Try.
So I think that there's an analogy here with like you and I growing up Mormon, and how morally what Joseph Smith did is repugnant and rejected by most people on the moral level of the church. But because Joseph Smith is the power, and he has to be the power, it therefore justifies whatever he did must have
Yep.
been for a reason that God,
Yep.
that we just don't know, that God
Yep.
intended.
So it's called obedience, or it's called faith, it's called loyalty. They'll call this adherence to protect power loyalty, obedience, faith, no matter what. Eternal perspective. It doesn't matter the situation, but a conservative is always going to protect power,
Yeah,
even when it doesn't suit their purpose.
interesting.
And they're only interested. So you can think of a conservative as a defense attorney for power. That's all they are.
Hmm,
So, for example, I use an example when this
interesting.
guy would say he would say, oh yeah, okay. So it was during Black Lives Matter, and this friend of mine, I don't know if he's much of a friend, but a friend of mine would say, oh, I thought we weren't supposed to see race when we would watch. I actually never watched it. I can't actually watch it. But, watching Derek Chauvin kill George Floyd, okay? Um, he said, why are we looking at race? Now, I actually talked to him privately. He's like, yeah, it probably was racially motivated, but it doesn't suit our purpose to look at it that way. That just creates racial animosity, and it makes bad things bad for the police. We shouldn't look at it that way. So he actually believes this. He believes that police are good for society, and so we shouldn't look at it through a racial lens, even if that would be correct to do, because police need to retain the goodwill of the public. And I was like, what? So he actually believes this, and he actually thinks this way, And so, and then I was like, do you actually believe that we shouldn't, like, and he wouldn't say, oh, you shouldn't see color. He said it, oh, I thought liberals said you shouldn't see color. So that argument, he lost that argument in the past. And when a conservative loses an argument in the past, they remember it, and they'll use
Interesting.
the lies in wait. And have you noticed that suddenly they're just like, oh, well, I thought this, right? Like, oh, women's sports. Well, what about trans people in sports? So now suddenly they don't actually believe it. They're just saying it to protect power. And so they will use an argument when it suits their purpose. It doesn't matter. So if you make a winning argument against a conservative, they'll remember it and wait and wait and wait until it serves them again. And then they'll
Yeah.
say,
I mean, like, I wish I could say I was surprised by the reaction, but I've known enough conservatives and talked to them
yeah,
that
they
that
think, no, but
exactly
they
makes
actually
sense.
think this way. Now, go back to your Mormon days. Did you remember, like, maybe you didn't actually buy into it, but did you remember kind of being taught implicitly to do this?
Yeah,
Yeah, like the sentiments there, right?
yeah. Like the
Like,
most important thing is loyalty and like binding yourself to
yeah,
the
the true
leadership,
sport. Yeah.
the captain steering the ship.
Yeah, mantles, stuff like that. And the Mormon church is actually quite a bit more explicit about it than others are, but it's always there. And so I'm writing this book, right? And I shared it with a few people, and people kept arguing with me. They're just like, my dad said, for example, I just don't like looking at people this way. I don't like, I mean, he
Okay.
doesn't consider him, he voted for Kamala Harris. He was disappointed like everything else. But he's like, I just don't want to look at people this way. And I got mad about it. I was just like, you don't want to look at them? He's like, I want to believe that something else other than racism and sexism. I'm like, okay, but to believe it's something else other than racism and sexism, you have to believe it's Kamala Harris's fault.
Yeah.
You want to give them the benefit of the doubt. To give them the benefit of the doubt, you have to give her the cost of doubt. You can't have it both ways. It's a binary thing. And he's like, well, what do you mean? And I'm like, okay, wait, what's the issue? He goes, well, they should have talked about the economy. I'm like, no. Go look. Biden was constantly talking about how good his economy was. And under the comments, you'd see conservatives, lies. Why didn't you talk about when inflation was whatever? No matter what he did, they would either say not good enough or they didn't believe it. He was doing it. I said he was. What, and I started talking about the actual particulars. Like, no, not the actual particulars. I was like talking about inverted yield curves and all this stuff. He's like, no one's going to listen to that. I'm like, okay, well, then Biden talked about job numbers, which is an easy sell, and they still dismissed him.
Yeah.
And I said they didn't want to believe him.
So
You can't, like, oh, he should have talked about the economy more. He did. You should have
yeah.
caught, they did. They did it all. So if you want to say, I'm not going to hear it, like, oh, I should have talked about the economy more. He did.
Yeah. The way I look at it is that a political campaign creates a story, right? A brand. And the story conservatives tell themselves about what's happening is
Yeah,
the one
I
that
don't buy
won.
that. I'm sorry, I don't buy it. It
Okay.
doesn't matter. They didn't want to vote for a black woman.
Yeah.
Their story
No.
is never the issue.
Okay.
So what I've learned with the conservative is that you can always find a hypocrisy in what they're saying. But
So
but you can't, the only time they're not a hypocrite is when they're conserving power. No, so I'm saying this and I'm getting, my brother's like, I'm not so sure. Or sometimes what happens is they're like, I'm not so sure. I get that sort of response. And then later they say, yeah, everyone's just like a dog protecting their bone. Like that's what John said. I was just like, that's what I'm saying. That's
yeah.
exactly what I'm saying. He's like, what you don't get, Lydia, is they're all just dogs protecting their bone. I know. That's what I'm saying. They're just protecting what they think the bone is. Okay, so all of this is happening. I'm just like, my dad's like, oh, I don't know. I'm like, then why? Why didn't Nikki Haley? Why wasn't she the? If it's not racism and sexism, then why is Nikki Haley not in the office?
Mhm.
Okay, so then he becomes president every other day. Oh yeah, men should be in charge. It's not like a week ago I thought, oh, they're still gonna go around pretending that DEI is like actually, unfair because it was promoting people above the most qualified. They're not saying that anymore. They're just like white men should be in charge. They've been
Yeah.
literally saying that. They literally say what, so it's not even the pretense has been completely gone. So it's like
Right.
for like 2 weeks ago, I was like, no one's going to buy my book. I got to find a better way to explain what I'm seeing. And now I don't need to do that. I don't even need to write the book. There's a new Trump guy who's literally saying competent white men need to be in charge.
Yeah.
Literally what he said.
No, like when they blame the plane crash on DEI,
It's a joke. It's like,
that's
I don't need to write my book anymore. My point is, I don't need to write my book anymore. I had no idea they were going to stop. I thought they were still going to talk in code. They
yeah.
stopped talking in code.
Yeah, they
And
just view it as
so can we
socially.
just stop talking in code?
Yeah.
No, they want white men in charge.
Yeah. That is what they're saying.
Literally said confident white men. That's literally what they said.
Yeah. Damn.
They're not there. Well, there's a Republican woman who was saying something. She's like, I'm not DEI. And they're like, yes, you are, honey. Did you hear about that? They literally, yeah, you are. You
Sounds
wouldn't have,
familiar.
you graduated West Point. When women weren't allowed there before for DEI.
Oh,
You didn't earn it. It's not about earn it. They don't want a meritocracy. They want existing power to stay in power. And
well,
if we
yeah, and
stop fucking around and thinking it's something else, we stop giving them the benefit of the doubt, we can actually start dealing with things. Because like there's things you can do. For example, don't pretend they're good people. They're not. Watch this argument.
okay.
Oh, we shouldn't over police black people. They don't care. Just keep that in mind. But if you say this, if incarcerated people can go to work, that's going to threaten your job. That will work.
Hmm.
Okay. So like, wait, oh, I can't find a job. Well, they're giving all the jobs to inmates. Let's make a law that no inmate can take the job that a citizen could do.
Hmm.
Okay, but let's make it that no inmate can earn less money because we don't want them competing with you. They can't compete
Yeah.
with you. No inmate could ever be paid less than a free person. You see how that could actually enact change. You got to try to stop talking about them like they're good people. They're always going to serve their best interest. So make what
Yeah.
you want to do appeal to their self-interest.
So why so you're basically saying like why appeal to their better angels
No, yeah, appeal to their
if
best interest.
it's not
They're
gonna work?
afraid of change. So, like, instead of asking permission, can I please build this accessibility ramp for the poor people in wheelchairs? Just fucking build it and then say, hey, they want to take your ramp away.
Yeah.
That's what you do. You stop asking permission. You just build the society you want to build because they're stupid. They'll start protecting it because it exists.
Wow. Holy shit. I see where you're going now.
Okay.
So
We have got to stop pretending they think like us. They're not like us. They're
they're
bad
not like
people.
us.
They're not like us. They're bad people.
Yeah.
Okay. So just like you can make the case for UBI by saying, hey, if you got UBI, then we can get rid of a minimum wage, and then you can start a business and pay anyone anything they want. Because if everyone gets 20,000 a year, then the free market is free market. They're not desperate, and you could start your own business and hire someone for $5 an hour.
Yeah.
You can make the case for UBI if you stop trying to appeal to their better angels. They are fundamentally against empathy for anyone who's not like they are.
Yeah.
So that's the what I wanted to tell you is my book is completely changed because there's no point to having it anymore. I don't need to convince anyone. They're literally admitting it. So Regina George is literally saying, yeah, I'm the best. God, didn't you know that already? Oh,
Damn.
what do you think?
No, I agree with you. That's
Uh, trans girls in sports.
say what?
Trans girls in sports. Just say, oh, yeah, were the cis girls getting hurt? Were they getting hurt? Were
Yeah.
they? They
Yeah.
were. Oh my gosh, let's check. Let's check the numbers. And honestly, if cis girls are being hurt at higher rates than they are than otherwise, then maybe there is some validity. But I bet you they're not.
Yeah.
I bet you that trans girls are less aggressive because they're probably more in tune to doing performative femininity. I bet you anything that it's the cis girls that are doing most of the hurting.
Probably, yeah.
Maybe we need to put some more, I don't know, pads on those girls. Protect them. Let's get some more helmets on.
But like I think it's strange, like I'm trying to remember what state they were in, but there was a trans masculine wrestler that was forced to compete in women's sports. And it's like that actually does create an unfair advantage if you're making the trans man compete in women's sports.
I, I guess, okay, there is one way I would criticize liberals or the left, and it's on stuff. I actually am fine with it. I'm okay with trans. I know the science. I've read the science, okay? I'm not gonna say, yeah, all the trans women can run all over the cis women. I've read the science, and so long as I'm fine with it. I'm not a stupid idiot. However, there is something instinctual that happens. I can remember the first time I heard about trans women in sports, there was an instinctive protective feeling. I felt like that's dangerous. I think most people feel that way. And so what we don't do is we try to rationalize that stuff away instead of understand it. I don't know exactly how it could have worked, but that protective feeling could have been um nurtured, but instead, we're told to deny it, and that's the thing. Transphobes are wrong, but they know how to tap into your biases.
Oh yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like they have terrible, terrible arguments, but they do know that most everyone feels protective over a cute little girl playing sports, okay?
Yeah.
And
Well,
so that got exploited.
it's the
We
same.
go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's the same way that over and over again, the protecting the child becomes the
Yeah.
default argument of whatever conservative position
So
is.
why don't we do that? Why
Yeah.
don't we protect the children from the pedophile rapists in the church? Protect the children from the Donald Trumps out there. We
Yeah.
could be doing that too, but we're just like, well, technically speaking, the science says blah, blah, you know what I mean? I'm convinced by the science.
Correct. Me
But
too.
I know a lot of people who hate Donald Trump and they're just as stupid. Like I'm just talking to them just like what? That's not close to reality. I mean, I'm with you. Donald Trump is a terrible monster, but you're believing conspiracies about him. Like, huh. So I'm not saying we should do that necessarily, but at all. Actually, I'm not saying it at all. I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's okay to tell the truth, even if it's going to exploit a defensive reaction. We should be doing that.
Yeah.
Donald Trump is bad for your family. Not,
Yeah.
it shouldn't be, oh, Donald, blah, 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 technical, don't vote for Kamala Harris because she's got a better technical on the interest rates. No, you shouldn't have done that. It should have been like, Donald Trump's coming from your kids.
Yeah.
Donald Trump's going to make it so you can't afford to feed your kids. We
I
should
mean,
have done that.
I mean, just like fucking look at the last week of news about
It's
politics.
awful.
The thing that like you could call it, you could argue against this or that for various reasons, but the one that like sticks out to me is, wow, our government is actively hurting people and
Hmm.
and actively making lives worse, and that's not the function of government. Like all of
Yeah,
these actions to cut different agencies or cut funding is actively hurting people, and that's the only purpose of it. Therefore it shouldn't be done because it's bad policy. I don't
just
fucking
tell it.
care
Just
if
keep telling
If
the
Joe
truth.
Biden had done it, I would also say it was fucked up,
Yeah,
you know?
just keep telling the truth. Okay. Um, don't be afraid of telling the truth. Let's look into it. It's probably something to do with his cuts that caused that crash. It probably is. And there's going to be more. Just keep
Yeah.
telling the truth. And in my reading, all this research I'm doing, because I'm actually trying to be a philosophy student instead of like, I don't need
Yeah.
bad ideas from dead philosophers. I read this thing. They're just like, the words of the hegemony are a resource to the counter hegemony because they will inevitably contradict themselves.
Yeah.
And so always listen, and we shut them up. You don't shut them up. Stick microphones in their fucking faces.
I
Don't
mean,
shut them up. Let them talk.
no, I mean, that is how Kamala Harris won that debate with Trump. She literally
Let
just
him
let him
talk.
talk and let
Yeah,
him look like an idiot. That's all she
he's a
had to
fucking
do.
idiot. Yeah.
And she got that, whereas Joe Biden didn't when they were in the debate. Kamala Harris got it
And I
and
I
played
think
it
I
off
still
so
think that
well.
that Hillary Clinton, like I think that Barack Obama won when he said, "Please proceed, Governor." That's the moment he won.
Yeah,
I think if Hillary Clinton hadn't apologized for calling half of his Trump a basket of deplorables, I think that was when she lost. She should have
really.
looked at him and said, "Well, the KKK are deplorable.
Yeah.
What do you think? Do you think the KKK are deplorable?"
Do you think the Proud Boys are deplorable?
Just the KKK.
Oh,
She only
just
had
if
to do
you
the
need me to
KKK
do that. Gotcha. Yeah.
and just look at him.
Yeah.
And he would have dithered and murmured and all that stuff. She goes, "Oh, I think they're deplorable."
Yeah.
That's all she should have done. She shouldn't apologize to him. She shouldn't have fucking apologized.
Yeah. Trump doesn't
And then she should have looked at
apologize.
the camera and said, "I'm not talking about if everyone who's supporting him. I'm not. I hear you. I know you're disaffected. I get it. But the KKK is supporting Donald Trump, and you should be mad about that just as much as I am." That's what she should have done.
Yeah, she should have. It's true.
And I'm so we're so conservatives don't look at us like the conservatives do think that we're like us. They think that we don't mean what we say either. They
Yeah.
think that no one means what they say. They just think that everyone's just coming up with better arguments. They literally think we're defense attorneys for our side too. Okay?
Yeah.
So that if you accept that and stop trying to appeal to their better angels, they don't have them, or they just have a fundamental idea of what an angel is. You can just accept them. They'll tell you who they are. Just listen to them. And and to be honest, like if you can understand this, there is some merit to being a conservative. I actually read someone who explained it this way, and I would never be a conservative. But I was asking one, how do you like being? I mean, you're always on the wrong side of history. And
Yeah.
she said, I know, but think of all the things we didn't do that we could have done because we were being stubborn. There's
Hmm.
so much. Yeah, we were wrong about slavery. Yes, that was wrong. We were wrong about I believe in gay marriage. She's like, I believe in gay marriage. And I didn't. And I know I changed my mind. And I was on the wrong side of history. But those were good arguments, and you won those arguments. Think about all the arguments, things we said no to that you still aren't asking about.
Hmm.
I don't really like that, but I was just like, hey, she's a lot more honest than most people are, and I kind of respected that.
Yeah.
She's like, she looked at herself as I'm just going to be a skeptic for everything that's talking about change. You have to make a really good argument in order to convince me that this is what we should be doing, that we should change society. I don't mind changing society, but you're gonna have to really convince me.
Yeah. So like a
Like, okay,
conservative,
okay, that like if that's what you want to be, fine. So
I think that like this comes down to like skepticism, and I think both sides exercise skepticism towards a policy or towards the other side. But what you're talking about is actually, I was just like doing a little refresher before we started this podcast on something we've talked about previously, which is like the master slave dialectic and like looking at Christianity as slave morality. And there's like, because Nietzsche had the master and slave mentalities, right? But like the what I was reading about it is that that mentality is one of skepticism and resentment, and I think that very well encapsulates conservative ideology is of skepticism towards um, change and resentment whenever liberals are in power, it's very much
they're
a
resentful
resentment.
for anything that has power that's not hegemony.
Yeah,
Like, um, they just that they can't say the N-word.
yeah.
They're so resentful of, and they're just like, wait, they're okay. So if you think about what's cool, what is cool is usually something to do with ownership or acceptance of not being the hegemony. That's
Hmm.
inherently cool. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, it is. That's
Yeah.
if you think about what is cool, that is what cool is. They are never going to be cool. That's what they resent.
Right.
Okay. So why do they why do they fantasize about the Roman Empire? Because then it was cool.
Mm.
That's the only thing. That's it. They were cool. It was cool to be powerful. It was
Yeah.
cool. It's not cool ever since the French Revolution. It has not been cool to be powerful. We laugh at kings. They're ridiculous now. We don't look up to them.
Yeah.
I mean, which is like no matter what, no matter how cool Prince Harry tries to be, it's still cringy to be a prince. Come on, you're a prince. You
Fucking
didn't
Prince
earn your position?
in
Really?
2025.
It's no matter what, it's always like a little bit embarrassing. They resent that. They no longer are cool. And that's where that grievance comes from. So they can't say the N-word. My kid doesn't get to go to Harvard because he's of his race. Yeah, actually he does, but no
Yeah.
one cares. They want the they want the social capital of being marginalized.
Yeah, it's what you were talking about earlier about like being framing themselves as the ones that are being persecuted.
Oh,
Like
it's so
a,
much fun
a
though.
really good example. was the arguments about gay marriage, right? Because within Mormonism, we heard them all the fucking time, which was simply that, well, they are coming for our rights as a religion to practice and believe. It's like, no,
No, no, we
that's
weren't.
not what's happening when two consenting adults that love each other want to get married. Like, that's not
Well, see,
threatening
here's
you.
here's a good example of how it works and how it doesn't work. Okay, so like you're right. No, like I tried both ways. I'm like, no, no, they're not. Fact, fact, fact. But then my sister said that to me. I'm just like, what? You and Joseph are having problems? Is he gay? He's not gay. Are you gay?
Yes.
Like, wait, your marriage is under threat
Yeah, your marriage. Like,
because of the gays? What they do? And she's like, that's not what I mean.
how did they hurt your
That's what you
marriage?
said. So,
Oh my
so
God, what did they
I
do
do
to
that
you?
now.
Tell me.
Are two gays in the room with you?
Are they here?
I always do that. I always say to gays when I'm making
Today.
fun of homophobes. I was
Yeah,
talking to my friend Liz about where that came from. Apparently, it's a bit passe to say to gays, but I think it's funny
it is funny.
because they would like get really mad they misspell it, right? And I was like a little bit like condescending to make fun of them for saying to gays.
Yeah.
So I saw Rachel Maddow doing it for a while. She's like to gays. So I've had a really bad. I've been really sick.
Oh,
Apparently, some gay Swifties were going to the Eras tour as wide-eyed gays.
oh my God.
Because like your sweet disposition, your wide-eyed gaze, and like what's that song of hers?
Uh-huh.
All Too Well. Like that's just the songs. Your sweet disposition, your wide-eyed gaze, the wide-eyed gaze.
Oh dear.
Anyway, so yeah, I mean, I guess I should still write the book, but definitely want to trying to talk about how to like reframe them to like oh, I used to do that with oh my nephew can't get into Harvard. I'm like, he can't? I can help. What's his SAT score?
Yeah.
I do that one a lot. Oh no, he's got an excellent ACT. He does? What's his GPA? Oh, he's got a 4.3. Has he
So yeah,
applied to
see,
Harvard
that's like
yet?
a, sorry, what was that?
I'm like, have you applied to Harvard yet? Let me help him. I do free tutoring. It sounds like you have a special case here. Oh no, I'm fine. I can afford it. It's like,
Yeah, so why is it that they fall to, well, I mean, that's an example of falling to blame. Like if I don't have this success, I'm going to blame a minority for taking it from me.
yeah. I was like, okay, well, Harvard's still accepting 60% white people. That's about the population of what,
Oh, so
you
white
know,
students are more likely to get into Harvard.
yeah.
So yeah,
And also like, okay, so there's a new report out that just found that they were afraid that uh they would not have minority students admitted into colleges as much since the repeal of affirmative action.
yeah.
Okay, so you know why?
Why?
White men are not applying to college.
Yeah. People are like women earn college degrees more often than men
They're applying to college more
because they're
often.
applying to college.
Men have stopped by and large. So, if any white men are out there listening to this, you should apply to college because you're underrepresented and you will probably have an easier time getting in. Except they did away with the affirmative action, so you can't really use your race and gender to your advantage like you did 2 years ago. But you should still apply because we need more educated white men because they're just not there anymore.
Yeah, if you're an underrepresented group, the solution is to well, go to college
Go
then.
to
Apply to
college.
college. Apply to Harvard then. If you're worried about that, just apply to Harvard and that'll be more likely to help you. Oh, take the SAT and get a high score.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah. I mean, I know you know this, but like if you just made the case as like as a tutor, like your SAT score will determine this. Like it'll be the great equalizing factor. You're right. So we won't use race as a
I
consideration.
mean,
Just
yeah,
get a
white
good
men
SAT
do have
score.
slightly higher SAT scores. They do. Their average is like 1100. Everyone else is like 11, 1050.
Who has a slightly higher SAT score?
White men.
Oh, I mean, okay.
White men. So, I mean, off the bat, you should be about 50% higher than you would have been. No, 50 points higher. I mean, no one's getting into a prestigious university at that score, at the average
No,
white man score. It just happens to be higher.
yeah.
And there's a lot of reasons for that. But
So do you think it's helpful to help people see their privilege? Or like I know it is in theory important to recognize your privilege. That's not what I'm saying, but like when you're having this argument with a conservative, will they even look at it if you try to show them that?
I don't bother. If you're asking me why I've never been successful at doing it, so I never try.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I can see that.
Like I get accused of doing that all the time, but the truth of the matter, I don't bother with it.
So like telling a person that has
Trafficking and guilt is usually not going to win a heart and mind.
yeah.
So especially if they haven't done anything wrong, then no. Um, but another word for privilege is your parents really love you, and not everyone has that.
Yeah.
Maybe don't call it privilege, call it you have a lot to be grateful for.
You have a lot of advantages.
Yeah, like some people, and I say, my son is privileged. My son is privileged as fuck. Okay. Like, I think my son is more privileged than most white boys
Yeah.
because um, he just has pretty much, he has the privilege of being who he is and who his parents are and our education levels and our abilities and all this other stuff. He's also black. So he gets that too. He gets that. And then no one is discriminating against him. So he doesn't have the downside to being black. He's been extremely sheltered from racism. I think some kid called him the N-word once, and then everyone laughed at that kid.
Yeah.
And they all made fun of him. So what are you gonna do? So and he came on, Mom, a kid come. I was like, what? He's like, yeah, everyone made fun of him. Oh, okay. Yeah, that was dumb. He's not cool. Oh, okay. That's why did he call you that? Oh, I kicked his ass in sports. I was like, well, okay.
Mm.
Okay. So um uh and then he just has, you know, he's not his parents aren't rich, but he's the future is bright for him, but it's been really hard. It's been really hard having him apply to college and having all this shit happen, and but perhaps he wants to leave the country, and I'm just like, but my kid's about to start college, and so it's like,
Yeah.
he got accepted to Urbana-Champaign.
Oh wow.
So, number 5 in engineering schools in the world.
Really?
Yeah. It's not that hard to get into Urbana-Champaign, especially if you're an Illinois resident, but not everyone gets in on the engineering program.
Yeah.
So it's not like as prestigious or selective, but it's better than I couldn't he was telling me it's better than Stanford, but I looked and it didn't say that, but it was also said that Stanford it said is their doctorate engineering program, which I thought Stanford was I didn't think it was a university. I thought it was just a college.
Oh no, it's a university.
Okay, I thought it was just a four-year college. I don't know anyone who has a graduate degree from Stanford. I
I know
only know
someone
people
with
with
a law
bachelor's
degree
from
from
Stanford.
Stanford.
What?
I know
What?
someone with a law degree from Stanford.
Stanford Law? I've
Yeah.
never even heard of Stanford Law.
I know, right?
Um, yeah.
But they are there.
I think BYU Law is even more prestigious, than Stanford Law. I'm not sure though. But
I think BYU accounting is like one of the better ones and
mm,
stands out.
um,
Business probably too, but I'm not sure where their law school is rated. I know it's not bad, but
yeah. Um, Yeah, so we'll see. We'll see how this is all going to shake out. So, but yeah, so anyways, my point is things are changing so rapidly that the book I was writing is now, which I thought no one would ever take seriously, is now so obvious I don't even need to write it. So I thought that was ironic and
Yeah,
worth talking about.
that is terribly ironic.
Like I thought, yeah,
So,
what they mean is that competent white men should be in charge. And I'm just like I literally read, new Trump appointment says competent white men should be in charge. I'm just like, well, I'm mad because that's racist and sexist, but now I can't write my book.
now they're just saying it. I don't even
Now
have to
they're
point it
saying it.
out.
I don't
Like,
need to write this book about you could figure it out. They speak in code. They're not speaking in code.
yeah. And I think that's really disturbing too,
It is.
because
But
the thing I've noticed more than anything else is that the Trump presidency gives the license to people to be more bigoted and more,
I I'm trying to form the opinion that this is actually for the best.
okay,
Like not right now, and it's not for the best. Okay, let me just qualify for that a lot. The funding they're cutting off is killing people already. Okay.
yeah,
And a lot of them are extremely impoverished, poor children from around the world. This idea, did you see the JD Vance was just like, liberals have it wrong. We're not supposed to have empathy for the rest of the world. We're supposed to have empathy for ourselves. That's what Jesus taught. Did you see that?
no,
Oh my God. He's like, yeah, liberals have empathy upside down. We're supposed to care about our family first, then our community, then our country. And only after our country is fixed, and I don't know when you ever fix the country, then we need to care about everyone else. They said that Jesus doesn't want us caring about those Gazan children.
yeah, because
That's
Jesus was a
somehow
white
wrong,
American.
selfish.
What?
It's somehow wrong and selfish. Like it's upside down land right now.
Oh
Like
my
it's
God, I forgot Jesus was a white American born in the 21st century.
you've done it to the least of these, my brother. You've done it to me.
Yeah. Love thy
Anyway,
neighbor as thyself. Like, love God. Okay.
no, they have it 100%. Yeah, they are literally subverting God.
Oh,
Like,
they're literally subverting what Jesus said. Like,
yeah.
yeah, they're doing the opposite of what Jesus taught and then calling themselves Christians and followers of Christ. It's
Yep.
double think. It's so bizarre.
Anyway, so that's done. Christianity is not Christianity anymore. So that's fun. I don't know. But after we've buried, if we survive climate change and after we've buried the sacred dead, if we survive climate change, the decline of American hegemony is probably going to be better in the long run.
Yeah. I
Thing
see.
is with immigration is that when we were attracting the best and the brightest, is the best and the brightest were not staying in their place and making it better.
Hmm.
So we are losing that. The best and the brightest will not be coming anymore. They won't be.
Brain drain too.
Singapore, for example, does have they basically have open immigration. You can't be a citizen, but you can live there legally. They've got the best healthcare in the world there. And the most medical innovations are coming from Singapore. Well, I don't know if they're the best, but they're up there. There are I don't think there's not gonna be some Singaporean hegemony out there, but there's gonna be something else. I don't think it's gonna be China, and they're gonna try. It's not gonna be Russia. Russia's falling apart, but it might
Yeah.
be Germany of all things.
Yeah, it might be.
So I don't know, you know, and I have to confront this idea that there was a part of me that still believed that we were terrible, but we were the best option, and maybe I wasn't right.
Yeah, no, I understand that, and I've in the past before examining them more like echoed those arguments, but I don't believe them anymore.
We don't have the solution for the rest of the world. And
No.
maybe Trump stopping paying for everything else out there means that and we maybe if we develop a sovereign wealth fund, maybe we're gonna actually restore something around here. I don't know, but I don't know. Someone else is going to have to pay for those babies. And maybe
Uh,
it's China. I don't know. I don't know. But my concern is China developed so fast that they are a major polluter. Um, so I don't know. There's a lot of things to consider, but
the
I
thing that
don't.
happens too, though, with like, I was listening to a podcast about this very, like, USAID being basically demolished overnight, is that it it reduces the soft power of the United States in other ways. Like business deals can't happen in a place where suddenly US the view of the US is bad. Did you know that in Argentina they refused the Moderna and Pfizer vaccines for COVID and took the one from Russia because of the anti-American sentiment, which was not for their best interest, because then Russia withheld like the second dose, which is really fucked up. They couldn't have known that. But the fact is, like, those companies didn't make money from sending the vaccine there, and they fucked themselves over too. That second part is a little bit irrelevant to our argument, because I'm just saying that that's what happens when your soft power as a country and your influence to them is reduced from just like a purely economic or like transactional sense. Like it's bad for American business that they cut US aid.
So maybe that's good.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's not good right now. So what I would say is take care of what you can take care of. So like there are babies in some country that was relying on aid that are going to suffer. And if someone close to that baby can help, like this is a time that we can't rely on the federal government right now. So
No.
community needs to step up. And yes, there will be casualties. Absolutely, there will be casualties. I'm not saying there's not going to be, but what I would say is try to reduce your own impact, try to make the life better for everyone else you can. Do what you can. I don't know who you can save, but if you can save one person, that one person is going to survive. So
Yeah.
that's what I would say. That's the best thing we can do. Um, yeah. So
Yeah, this is sort of my like saving thought through this whole debacle of Trump presidency is that the life I live is largely outside of the, I mean, not that what the government does doesn't impact me, but I just mean that there is a side of life much more important than being in the USA, which is my community and my friends, and
mm,
building up that that will not be, that they can't take away from me, right? Like that's what I have, and that's what I can build, and I can help other people around me, and that's more important right now than anything else. Even though I wish that, the powers that exist were better, I have to deal with what's happening at the
yeah.
present moment.
And then I think that on a micro level, that's what we should do. And then on a macro level, we've got to get better about our arguments. We really, we're right. So why do we apologize?
Yeah.
Stop
Trump doesn't
apologizing for being right.
apologize.
You know, and hold people to account for their words. And just remember, if you can get someone to do the right thing for the wrong reason, you're still good. That's still better than being endlessly lost in a debate.
Yeah, that's true. Like, I won't apologize about being pro-abortion. I mean, abortion is healthcare. Like, there's no reason to apologize for
But
holding
can
that
you
view.
hold space for someone who thinks that's you're killing a baby?
Yeah, yeah, because I know people that
You used
have,
to think that, right?
yeah, definitely.
I don't. Abortion's hard. Um,
I get it, but I'm saying that even with something that's hard like that, I don't think we should be apologetic. I think we just have
no, you
to
shouldn't be
continue
apologetic. Just
forward
like,
with what's
you know,
happening and that needs to happen.
I always just turn it around on people. Yeah, I don't apologize. I just turn it around. I'm just like, if you were to save embryos or babies, you're telling me you would kill a baby over an embryo? Put them, I just put them on the defensive. If you, appeal to their ugly angels or
Yeah.
put them on the defensive. Like, you
Oh,
don't need to be on the defensive.
so you're in favor of the government taking control of what a
Oh, I
doctor.
don't go that route.
You don't go that route? Okay,
No,
gotcha.
the reason why I don't go that route is because if they think it's murder, then they hear the argument, you're okay with that, you think that the government can't stop murderers. It does. I
Ah,
don't know why. Like, it's just a bad. I don't know why we keep making that argument.
yeah, no, see what you're saying.
No. So you just say, wait, so if there's 10 embryos and one baby in a burning building, you would choose the 10 embryos of the one baby. Oh, well, no, of course not. Well, I thought you said they're the same.
Yeah,
You just do that. Just put them on the defensive. So,
yeah,
um, oh, if you're gonna make that argument, you would just like, you're gonna make a 12-year-old carry an unviable pregnancy to term. I would do that,
oh,
but
you're in favor of killing a 10-year-old child because they can't get health care?
yeah,
That's what
you don't
you.
think that ectopic pregnancy should be aborted?
Yeah,
Just like,
you don't think that the doctor should be able to save the life of a.
yeah, and then don't, and they're just like, oh well, I'm just elective. So who decides? You
Yeah,
decide? Oh well, no, a committee would decide. Okay, who? Oh
yeah,
well, the doctor. Okay, so you trust the doctor. Well, no. Okay. Well, if it's rape, okay, who decides if it's rape? Well, a trial. You think that we should wait till the end of a trial? Aren't you against third trimester abortions? Well, yeah. Okay, so that's what I do. So
yeah, yeah.
so but doesn't he have the right to self-defense? I mean, are you saying that because it's a rape trial we have to be speedy? Well, no, I'm not. Okay, so what are you saying? So you just keep doing that, and then they are, that's what they do. So I was like, I get it. I just don't see how this is possible. I mean, you can have your good ideas, but there's just no possible way in a just society that you can do this. I mean, I believe, you know what? If I'm not going to tell you you're wrong on abortion, but there is literally no way. Well, then women can just cry rape. Yes, I do understand that, but do you like it when men are accused of rape? Well, no. Okay, so then why are you going to make women say rape in order to get an abortion? Because then they're just going to cry rape. Don't, because that makes it the men have to be held. I thought you were against that. And that's like, I just keep doing it like that. Like you can, I mean, okay, well then we'll just have a form that says I certify that it's rape. And then, okay, yeah, and that's honestly, that's fine. Like, I think that we would all come together, like, if it was proven not to be rape, she's proven to be lying, then she could be held accountable. But like, that's not gonna happen. So
Yeah.
just a sworn affidavit that, you know, do you really want to make women do that? Why can't she just decide? You know, well, she should, okay, so she can't make the decision on her own, but you think she can handle a child? And then I'll usually say, look, this is what I usually do. I go, look, life doesn't. They're like, oh well, you guys think that life begins at birth. I'm like, I don't think that. I don't know what liberty you're talking about that thinks babies aren't alive. Like a fetus isn't alive. I'm sure most of them understand basic biology.
Yeah.
That's just kind of a dumb argument. I think life predates conception. I think the sperm and the egg are alive. And I think life goes on after you die. I'm a organ donor. I don't know what you're talking about. But what I object to is that the individuality occurs moments after ejaculation. It took me 10 fucking months to make my baby. You're telling me gestation isn't life creation? What do you have against women? You don't think that women create life? Like it's a process. It took me 10 months to make Kieran. It's not 9 months, by the way. It's 10 months.
Yeah.
And then after that, I breastfed him. You don't think that I was creating life at that time? This idea that it's moments after ejaculation is crass. What's wrong with you? But then they're so not used to that argument. They're so used to the straw man argument that they blah, 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 blah themselves. And they're just like, and then you can just hit them with the, in some religions, they actually prefer the mom's life over the child. Are you telling me those religions are wrong?
Yeah.
Oh, so then,
Oh, you don't think that women should be able to exercise their religion? You're against freedom of religion now?
so yeah, so it's you. Like, and then they just they fluster, and then you just so they fluster about because you've thrown them off their game, and then you just say, I understand where you're coming from. I used to believe like you do, and I believe I didn't have an abortion. I know you can't say that, but like
Yeah,
I had that choice and I didn't have an abortion. But the thing is, abortion isn't murder. I think that we can all, you can think it's wrong all day long, but the fact that you are against third trimester abortions over first trimester abortions means you do understand that there's at least some sort of gradient.
there's a
Okay?
difference.
Look,
Yeah,
it's a process. Let's stop pretending this stupid rhetoric because it helps us feel better about our position. I'm disquieted. I don't like the idea of abortion. You are
right.
disquieted about taking away rights from the children. And I understand you don't want to talk about that either, but let's be clear eyed about this. I'm not telling you to change what you believe. I'm just saying to you live your life on this and we'll live on. And by the way, Roe v. Wade doesn't allow third trimester abortions.
Yeah, it does not.
It only protected the right up until point of viability. So go
But
ahead and why don't we just correct that? If you have a good enough position, you might as well tell the truth on that. And
but
then they
like,
used to go, I've done this about 20 times. I haven't ever changed someone a mind that they become pro-choice, but they're less vocal pro-life. I
yeah,
find that over and over again.
I think the thing that like we're talking about is what we were talking about in the beginning is that there's this impulse, and I have that impulse too, to protect a child, right? And that's what they're appealing to, is this idea that at all costs we have to protect children. That's our
It's
value.
real. Keep pretending that that's not real, that they're not really feeling this. And I see a lot of liberals do that. They think that way. Though that's a real feeling.
Yeah,
When I gave birth, my body was flooded with these chemicals. Flooded with these chemicals. Okay? It was intoxicating. I heard my baby cry and my body reacted all over the place. It was rather inconvenient. When you tell a person who's been through that, facts, it feels very invalidating. So, and I'm telling you, I've been successful and I don't ever try to convince someone to be pro-life. I just convince them to keep their pro-choice. I don't try to convince them to be pro-choice. I try to convince them to keep their pro-life personal and stop voting pro-life. And I've been
yeah.
actually quite successful with that several times.
No, this is actually the difficult conversation that I've had with my mom about this whenever politics happens to come up, because my mom, she's so deeply
How many times has
values.
she? I've been through that once. How many times has she been through that?
Yeah, 9 times, like
And then when she's pregnant, how many times has she been pregnant?
9 times.
9 times. She never had a miscarriage. I thought she did.
No.
I've had a miscarriage. So,
Oh,
um, she's very good at making babies.
yeah.
um, um, that's an undeniable reality that you are never going to disabuse her of.
No.
Empathy
But
for her position would be a better way to handle it.
yeah, the way I've been successful is just to see that this is important to you, and I understand that, and I know, and I'm not going to try to convince you otherwise. It's just, look, that this candidate uh doesn't represent your values in all these other ways. And she hates Trump, so I give my mom major props for that. Hates Trump,
Your mom's a
absolutely.
nice person. He is not a nice person.
Yeah, exactly.
Same thing with my grandma. Sometimes my grandpa died, I want to say like 9 years ago. Sometimes I think, no, it must have been more than that because he died before Trump ran, just before he ran the first time.
Okay.
So sometimes I think he would have lost his mind because he was a Republican and he was a conservative. But if you weren't decent, you met my
Yeah.
grandpa a few times, right?
Yeah.
If you weren't decent, he did not like you. He just thought he probably like he knew Trump was obviously before he was ever a politician. I bet you anything. I never heard him talking about him because we never thought about him before. He was
Yeah.
there, but I remember like someone become a certain type of celebrity. He's like, oh, if they weren't good and decent, he did not respect you. And if you were a man, if you were a womanizer, oh man, he could not stand. He did not like cheaters at all.
Yeah.
Like cheat. Oh man, he could not have handled the Stormy Daniels things. He could not have handled that at all. He could not have handled him coming and him barging into the grabbing a woman by the pussy. Oh my gosh, my grandpa would have wanted to kill him. Like
Well, like think about it, like in the 90s, this is why Bill Clinton took so much flack. This is the argument that conservatives used against Clinton, that basically because he was immoral, he was not qualified to be president. And that's what they firmly
They listened
believe.
to all our arguments and they made it when it suits their purpose.
Yeah.
We shouldn't have elected Clinton, I'll be honest with you.
No, I mean, he's a
I don't know. I
sexual
don't know for some
harassment for
reason.
sure. I don't
That
know
Juanita
about this.
Broderick story, there's a lot of things wrong with it. Is it possible? Perhaps. But it's also like, and I don't like to disavow. I generally start with believing victims. I do. And what I do is I'm just like, I'm gonna believe you. But when you start contradicting yourself, I will even believe you. People contradict themselves, and
For
abusers
sure.
contradict themselves all the time. But when the contradiction starts consistently being towards a particular thing, that's bothering me. Let me give you an example. So, Paula, who is the Monica Lewinsky and Paula?
I don't remember the last name.
So they were invited. Remember when Trump had all of Clinton's people there?
Yeah,
So Monica Lewinsky and Paula, whatever her face was, Paula Jones? Paula Jones. Is
that's probably
that it?
right.
Let me look it up. I'm telling an idiot. Yeah, Paula Jones. They didn't show up. They're like, no, I haven't changed my politics. Tell him, he's a scum, but I'm not changed. Juanita Broderick has consistently said whatever she needs to say in order to suit conservative ideology. So
Oh.
to me, like, I'm just like, hmm.
Hmm.
There's a sworn affidavit she wrote when it suited her purpose that he did not rape her, that their sex was consensual.
Hmm.
She's now disavowing that. And I get that maybe she thought I get it. I understand. Could it have
No, I
happened?
get that too.
Yes. Okay. But it's like, I believe Monica Lewinsky. I don't believe Juanita Broderick. And Juanita Broderick is the one who said it was rape. Paula Jones, he just flashed her. And Monica Lewinsky, it was consensual. Both icky, totally wrong. But Juanita Broderick is the rape allegation.
Yeah.
And there's a sworn affidavit that she has that it was consensual. And it was only rape later on when she became a conservative. And so I'm just like, I don't know. Like, maybe it's true. I don't know. I just don't know. But also, like, believe victim means give them the benefit of the doubt. It doesn't mean believe them without impunity whatsoever. And we need to be clear-eyed about that too. Women fucking lie. I lie. Did you know I've lied?
Oh my God, you've lied?
Since you came out, have you lied?
I have.
Oh my God.
I know.
I
Hard
guess
to
we can't
believe.
believe you.
All right.
What a cunt.
Oh my God.
You have lied. How many times have you lied today?
Oh my God. Don't call me out like this. Don't at me like that.
Have you lied to ever make your position better than it should be?
Yes,
Yes. Do
absolutely.
you lie to hurt other people?
I try not to.
Right.
I really do.
Yeah. So everyone lies to portray themselves in the best possible light and to minimize maybe the downsides,
Yeah.
I've lied to you before.
Hmm.
You
Yeah, I
probably
know you
know
told
I
me about
lied.
my
I
hamster.
just can't. I'm so bored. You're like, bitch, I can see you playing video games.
Oh my God. I have no idea what that's like.
I'm working. You're not working. No, my kid's taking. No, actually, I was telling the truth about that. But I was laughing later. I'm just like, as I'm telling you I'm working, my kid's taking a test. You can literally see that I'm playing video games. You're just like,
Cilantro,
this
51
bitch.
minutes, 2 hours, whatever it is. Yeah.
I'm like, no, it's just running in the back. Actually, I think it was running in the background. And I was just like, I should
It was
probably
a-
log out. I'm gonna.
I know. Discord is such a
It's such a lie. I'm
Discord is
so
such
busy. No, you're not.
a
But you're like, she's got ADHD, that cunt.
We love our video games. What can we
What?
say? We love our video games. What can we say?
All right, on that, women lie.
Not all women.
And you know what? Who else lies? The they thems. The
Yeah.
babies. The they bays. They lie too.
But
Look at their
Lydia,
little
not all
lying
women.
faces.
Remember? Not all
What?
women. Not all women.
No.